Hi guys, just out with Drew. Oh, Drewbo. Drew is sister of Nipsey and Fugee. And we're just out. She's on a lead because she keeps trying to find her granddad. Keeping these dogs in the field is never easy when they know what goes on behind the scenes and they want to go down to where we're normally working. But yes, this is Drew. Droopy Drew. Drew. So we kept out of her litter. So she's from Bey and Logan. And we kept her, Fugee and Nipsey from that litter. Drew was my favourite from literally the moment she was born. As soon as I laid eyes on her, I just knew that I had to keep her. My little keeper. She was so full of attitude, always angry, doing the angry face, always telling all your brothers and sisters off, weren't you? The policeman of the litter. She's starting to go grey on her chops now. I mean, they're 6 now, so she'll be an old lady soon. She's such a serious dog. Drew's not very daft. And so when she is silly and daft, as she was when she first got here, it's so comical to watch because it just seems weird with her for her to be really daft because she's so serious most of the time. Come on, Drew. Let's go. Let's go. Come. So yeah, it's quite funny to watch her when she starts doing daft runs and being silly because it's just such a rarity with her, especially now as she's getting older. She generally just wants to be on the sofa or on your knee. She's got such a lovely nature, our Drew. Careful, sweetie. Let me get your lead. That's it. I know, Mummy's got the longest lead and you don't like walking on long leads, do you? She's just very laid back. She doesn't particularly like other dogs unless she's in a big open space, and she'll tolerate them as long as they don't get in her face. But she gets on really well. She absolutely adores Fugee and Nelly. She adores them. The three girls, they will always be piled on top of each other, sleeping. They can't just sit next to each other. They have to physically be touching, intertwined, or literally one of them laid on top of the other two, physically across the other. But her and Fugee particularly very, very bonded, which is strange for litter sisters. Never actually had any issues with the pair of them. Fugee's the boss. Drew just takes it on the chin. She's pretty chill. A couple of times she's thought about challenging it when Fugee's been a little bit naughty. But in general, do you want to go around this side in the sun? I just don't want the builders to be too noisy with the camera, baby. But in general, Drew she'll just go with the flow. So with Drew, from a health point of view, she's had a couple of issues. So she was born, you can probably see that lump on her back there. So she was born with that. It's a cyst. and we had it all checked and tested when she was, I don't even think she was a year old. It had not changed for, well, most of her life. It had not changed. And we went and had it checked and tested, and it is one of the congenital cysts that grows on the spine, and most of the time they're not removable because they're actually attached to the spine. And obviously that's a big risk, is going in to remove something that's not causing any problems, and potentially, you know, if the operation went wrong or it was attached at the wrong point, it could cause us severe problems. So we left it, and we've left it, and it really didn't change up until about a year ago, and it's just ever so slightly grown bigger. But she doesn't mind touching it. It doesn't bother her at all. There's no opening to it. It's all attached under the skin. It's nothing. What you can see on top is just the growth of it. It's not actually like a normal sebaceous cyst. It's nothing like that. But she was born with it, so it is. They are classed as congenital and hereditary. It can be passed on. So that was one of the issues we had with her. And at about a year old, we went and had her hips and elbows scored, and her hips on one side were much higher than the other. Elbows were fab, but her hips weren't great on one side, and pretty high as well. It wasn't just a big difference. One side was pretty high. So on one side there is mild dysplasia. So that was another factor. Not that, you know, she's on joint supplements and never had a day lameness in her life, thankfully, but it's there. We know it's there. And totally blame myself for that, because her parents are both hip scored, really low scoring dogs. And the mistake I made with this litter is overfeeding them a little bit. They were very greedy. And what I normally do with a litter is I free feed them so that they never have any kind of food aggression issues, that they get a bit bored with food and food doesn't really mean anything to them. And I tried to do that with this litter, but they were so greedy, and she did end up too fat as a puppy. And I know that, her and Nipsey particularly. And I do think that was the biggest contributing factor to the higher hip scores that we saw in Nipsey and in Drew. Nipsey's aren't as bad as Drew's by any stretch, but Drew's were high enough that I was like, even though I know that there was mistakes I made, there was still a doubt in my mind that I would breed from her. I don't like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but you've got to draw the line at some things, and I wouldn't say I drew the line at it, but it was definitely something that was in my mind. I mean, we're going back, 4 or 5 generations of being hip scored and not seeing any bad hips until this litter. But it could be a mix of the genes. But anyway, that was all took out of our hands anyway, because Drew had something called cystic endometrial hyperplasia, however people want to say it, which is a cystic uterus basically, or cystic ovaries, cystic uterus. It tends to be that once the ovaries or the uterus is affected, the other one is also affected, which showed it was very, very dramatic in Drew. So initially when she was young, I noticed she got these little lumps that were just kind of on her undercarriage, like sitting in between her mammary glands. And they just felt funny, but I couldn't really explain what they were. And over time, it didn't change, but over time, we were waiting for her to come into season, and she got to 15 months and there was nothing. And then she did eventually come in about 15 months, and the season was really strange. It wasn't like she was in season, it was like she was just bleeding. And I've never seen a dog's back end swell up quite like it. It was horrendous, and she was in agony. So this was before we found the repro vet that we use now. So we took her to an emergency vet at one point because I was getting really concerned about her. And they said, oh, she's got polyps inside, we can feel it. And that would have been kind of inside her vulva. And I think they gave her antibiotics. 2 vets gave her antibiotics, and they didn't touch her. She wasn't better, and she just didn't seem right at all. And this went on for weeks. Anyway, I eventually I think I put a post on Facebook, and someone said to me, try the repro vets in Chesterfield, and I didn't even know they existed at the time. So I took her there, and they scanned her, and Dean, who is absolutely awesome at his scanning skills, he instantly said she is absolutely covered in cysts inside and she needs to be spayed instantly. So there was no pyometra, but CH is the start of pyometra, if you like. She would have gone on to have one at some point. I think the antibiotics kept things at bay, but eventually she would have had a pyometra. And she couldn't have a healthy season either. She wasn't ovulating or anything like that. She was just in pain. So we took her straight in for spay. She had the spay, and those little lumps that we could see on the outside by her mammary glands disappeared. So they were clearly the cysts, and we just didn't know what they were. So poor Drew, but after that, she was bang on. Happy lady. A very happy lady. But she has had a few, actually no, she only had the one ear infection, which was the Pseudomonas infection. Very, very difficult bacteria to treat and to get rid of. She had it in her ear, and that's been a bit of a battle over time. And I mean, we don't give her antibiotics in there anymore because it's just making things worse. It's not making anything better. There's not many antibiotics that kill that bacteria, so we haven't carried on with that. We just keep her ears clean and make sure that it's she's got a balanced pH in her ears, and that there's nothing going to allow anything to grow in her ears. That's all we can do at this point. But yeah, other than that, she's these few niggly things, but nothing serious with Drew so far, thank God, and hopefully never. Drew, come. Drew, come on. You're not going to Grandad. And she doesn't particularly like Missy, who is around the back at the moment, and Missy's got a coat on. So she definitely won't like Missy because she's wearing a coat.